Hi everyone, Nicholas Papidis here from the Junior Senior School. Welcome to this second in a series of Dreamweaver web design or web page design tutorials, primarily designed for students that are going to be taking the Cambridge ICT IGCSE exam, the 0417 exam. Now in this tutorial we're going to be looking at CSS style sheets. I like starting from style sheets rather than the HTML component, the HTML design of a web page. A little bit like PowerPoint when we learn how to create the master slides and then you start creating the slides themselves. So this is probably the same philosophy. So I like working with the style sheets first because it gives us a good understanding of the tags and how they're used in HTML code. And today we're going to be looking at some of the tags, not all of them because there's just too many of them to go over in one video and it's going to get very tedious and long. So the ones we're going to be looking at today is going to be the body tag. So we're going to be changing the background color of a web page. We're going to be adding an image in the background. We're going to be looking at heading tags, the H tags, H1, H2, H3. And we're going to be looking at the LI tag. Now the LI tag is a tag that is actually incorporated within the UL or the OL tag, an ordered or an unordered list. And the LI tag is basically what codes each component in a list. We're only going to be looking at the LI piece today. We're going to be looking at the difference between UL and OL in a later video. So let's get started. Okay, so here I've got my folder. Inside this folder, I've got all the files which I'm going to be using for my web page or my website. And we can see I've already got an index HTML file here. I've got a web page already set up. I've got some pictures which I'm going to be using for this web page as well. Now, as I said, we're not going to start from the HTML or the web page part. We're going to start from the CSS, the style sheet component first. So I'm going to open my web page in Dreamweaver. I can do that very easily by going to right click, open with, and choosing Dreamweaver, or you can open up Dreamweaver and go to file open. So here's my web page here opened up in Dreamweaver, and you can see the setup of my page right here is what I basically covered in the first tutorial, setting up the interface for Dreamweaver. So if this is the interface that you're used to using, of course, and you know, if you're students at the junior senior school, this is how we have Dreamweaver set up. So let's begin. So we can see our web page here in the middle. On the left hand side, we can see the split mode, the HTML source code. On the right hand side, I've got my CSS designer. Now, we don't really need the CSS designer when we're working only in the HTML component, so I could close that and just give me more working space. But because I'm going to show you how you can be working with the CSS code and be viewing the web page at the same time to see your changes take effect live, then we're going to have this designer open. Okay, so our first job is, let's just see what we've got inside this page. So if I select this title here, the good thing with the WYSIWYG, this is the web page view here, when I highlight something, it will actually highlight it over here in the source code as well. And we can see this has already been set up as a H1 tag. There it is there. But we could also see it down here in the properties, okay, in the properties section here. This one here, for example, when I select this, we can see in the properties, probably easier, it's a heading 3. This one is heading 3. This is heading 2. This one here is actually a list, and we can see it's an ordered list. It's been selected in the properties, but also if we have a look here where I've highlighted and I look over in the source code, we can see each item in the list is between the LI tag and the switch LI. So the switch LI is where the LI closes. So each item in the list is between these two. Let me just expand this section here like this. So you can see here, each item in the list is between an LI tag here and the switch LI here. Now we can see outside of these LI tags, they are all enclosed inside this OL tag. And that basically means this is an ordered list. As I said, we're not going to go into too much about ordered lists, but an ordered list is one that has to be followed in the right order. So it has numbers or some kind of incrementing symbol. Whether it's numbers, letters, Roman numerals, whatever. An unordered list is one that looks like this. These are bullets. You can see that's already changed to UL which means an unordered list. Now, as I said, we're going to look at the effect of using tags in CSS with UL and OL later on. So let's just change that back to an ordered list. There we go. Okay, so down here we've got some text, and this is using the P tag. That's there. The P tag stands for paragraph tag, and that's enclosed in that paragraph tag. So these are the tags we're going to modify in our style sheet today, and there's going to be one more we're going to work with, and that's the body tag. Now, everything that's viewable in your web page has to be within this body tag, otherwise you won't be able to see it. And so if we go all the way down here, we can see that this whole website is between the body tag here and the switch body at the bottom. So if we want to do anything to the background or to the entire web page, we apply that to the body tag. All right, let's start with our first tag by creating our CSS file, our style sheet. So I'm just going to unselect this, and I'm going to scroll to the top. Now I'm going to go to File, New, and this time I'm going to create here a CSS file. I'm going to click on Create. And now you can see I've got two files open, the index HTML, and I've got my untitled CSS document. Now I'm going to first off save this style sheet. You have to save everything in the same folder where everything else is saved for that web page or website. So I'm going to go to File, Save As. I'm going to go to my folder, which is on the desktop, and I've got it here, Website. And I'm simply going to call this down here, I'm just going to call it Style 1 and click Save. Now that's created my Style 1 CSS. We can see the title of this document there. Now, this thing here, which is in gray, and it starts off with let me just bring this over here. This part, the switch star, actually starts off a comment. So anything that follows this forward slash and the star will be a comment. So if I don't close that star and forward tag, then all of my code is going to be a comment and none of it is going to take effect. Okay, so if I want to put, let's say, my name or my candidate details as a comment in a style sheet, the way to do that will be put a forward slash asterisk, write your name, your candidate details, and then you need to close that like that. And I'm going to show you when we start actually working with this style sheet how it's going to affect it if we don't close those tags. So let's just get rid of that and go back to our Dreamweaver. There we go. Now I'm going to add my first tag. So the first one we're going to look at today is going to be the body tag. So here we go. I'm going to come over here to where my selectors are. You can see I've got my CSS designer open. I'm going to click on the plus sign. Let's just bring this up a little bit there as well, make it easier to view. I'm going to click on that plus sign and I'm going to type the tag I want to modify. So that's going to be the body. And as I start typing, you can see it actually finds all the ones that start off with the letters, say BOD. So you've got T body and body. I'm going to choose body, and you have to press enter now. And that now has added the body tag in my style sheet. So we can see that there. All right, now then, we need to make sure on this side over here where our CSS tags are, we make sure we've got this tick on show set unticked. This allows us to see all the properties that we can add on any tag. If I have the show set, it only shows me the ones I'm actually using, and I'm not using any right now. So I need to make sure that's unticked. So the first thing I want to do is to create a colored background. So up here we've got our shortcuts or the quick access, so we can jump to this list of properties here to the section that we want. So I'm going to go first of all to this one here, and that's background. I'm going to click on that and it's jumped to the background section. I'm going to choose a color. So here I've got the background color. I'm going to click here and I can choose the color I want. I'm just going to put like a pale green color here. Okay. And we're going to learn about hexadecimal color. That's what this is down here and what that is in another video. But for now, we're just going to add the color we want. And I'm going to press enter. We can see now in our CSS code, it's added the property for body and it's background, -sign color, colon, and then it's got the hexadecimal code. Now notice each property ends with a semicolon. All right, next step, I'm going to save this. File, save, and from now on, I'm simply going to be pressing Control S on my keyboard for quick save. Before I go and create anything else, I want to link this Style1 CSS to my web page, and I will see, hopefully, the background color change. So I'm going to go back to index, and I'm now going to go down here in my properties where it says class. I'm going to click on that, and it's got attach style sheet. So we're going to click on that there, and I'm going to browse to find my style sheet. Now, because my style sheet has been saved in the same folder where my HTML file is, it's going to open it directly in the folder where I have everything already. Here, there's my Style1. So I'm going to select this and click OK. And now I'm going to click OK. And look at that. My two things have happened now. The background of my web page has changed. But if you look closely up here now, it's got, for my index.html, I've got the source code and I've got the Style1 button there. If I click on that, it shows me the styles. In fact, I don't need to have this open anymore. It's harder to be changing things here, saving and going back and seeing them in the web page. It's easier just to switch between these two codes. So I'm going to leave that open for now, but I'm going to do most of my modifying directly from this section here. Now, the reason it's added this Style1 is because if we look in the source code now, it's added this line of code here. And I'm just going to take that and do a quick screenshot so we can see it a bit easier. And we're going to bring this down here. Okay, so there it is there. So essentially what it's saying, it says link href style1.css. It's a style sheet and the type is text CSS. So it's actually added a line of code in my HTML file in the source code saying, go and look for the style sheet, style1.css, and whatever's in there, it will apply it to this page. And any changes I now make on my style sheet here will be applied to this page because the style sheet now is linked with this source code. All right, so let's do another one. What I want to do now is to show you how we can put a picture in the background of a web page. So the next part, I'm just going to minimize that just a little bit there. So you can see now directly from here, I'm now going to click, so I'm within the two braces of body, the open and the close braces here. I'm going to jump over this side. So this is the beautiful thing about Dreamweaver. I can be working on the CSS code and be seeing my page live. I'm going to click on the background and I'm going to choose my image. So background image, I'm going to choose here on the folder, browse. And I'm going to add this little lion image of, which is the image of the school, the logo, and click OK. Now, look, already it's applied that image as a background of this web page, and I can see that. I don't need to be going backwards and forwards, and you can see it's applied it to this file. So I don't really need to have this file open, but it's much easier than, instead of making changes here and then coming over here to see what's happened, it's so much easier to work from here. Now, I don't want that line to be listed, vertically and horizontally. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go look at these properties and just see the different things that what I've got. So here we've got, for the background, it's got background repeat. Now, if I choose this one, it's going to repeat both horizontally and vertically. So choosing that one, you can see here it's got background repeat, repeat. And that's what it's actually doing now. It's repeating that line all the way horizontally and vertically. If I click on this one, it's going to repeat only horizontally. And you can see that it's only doing the horizontal part at the top. It's not repeating it vertically. If I choose the next one, that's going to repeat only vertically. So if you want some kind of image going all the way down on the one side, you can do it that way. Now you can't modify this. This is like in the background of this web page. Okay. Now this one here, is no repeat. Now that's only going to put the picture in once. And you can see it's added that line there one time. But if I want to be able to put that line, let's say, in a particular position, for example, to the right instead of the left, or maybe just move it a little bit down and over, we can actually do that. So we're going to have a look over here where our properties are, and we're going to find the section which has the position for this image. So we can see here background position. Now here it's got percentage and percentage. I don't know if you're ever going to need these, but we might as well have a look at them. And we're going to see what happens just by changing these values. So if I just change that value with just a little bit, 36%, can you see the first number is the horizontal? So it's moved it 36% inwards. The second number obviously is going to be the vertical. So if I give that, let's say, about nearly 50, close to 50 there, that's going to bring me 50 down. So if I just drag that a little bit, that's 20. So that's 36% in, 20% down. I'm just going to cancel that so I can click on this delete button. And you can see it's added this CSS code automatically for me. There it is there. So it's got background position. Now I can either delete the line from here, but over here I can click on this delete, the trash can here, and remove that property. You can see now it's vanished from the code. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on the percentage sign, and on the percentage sign I'm going to choose, instead of percent, I can choose left or right or center. So I'm going to choose right. And that now has moved the image all the way to the right. Where on the right? Well, it's proportional to your window. If your window is taking up so much space, then it's going to come all the way to the right. If you make your window a bit smaller by restoring it, then it's going to squash it. So it's actually relative to the size of the window. If I drag this part over and make my window even bigger, you can see it's all the way to the far right of that window. So that's how we can add images. So let me just get my CSS designer back and bring that code back here. Okay, so that's really cool, isn't it? We can actually modify the style sheets directly from here and see those changes live. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to close this. I don't know, shall I close it? Let's just leave it there. It might be easier to take some screenshots from here. Let's analyze this code here. So we've got within the body, we've got the background color. We've added the background image, and we said the background is repeat, no repeat. In other words, it's going to place it one time. And then we're going to say the background position. So the position of that image is going to be the right 0%. And that was the same as putting this so that it's over to the right-hand side, because you're going to move to the right 0%. Okay, next stop, I think we're going to look at the H tags. So we've got different H tags here. If I go over to my source code now, we can see that in my source code, this one here is a H1. Okay, there it is there. It's highlighted as H1, and we can see it down here. We've already seen this. So what is H1? Well, everybody's PC will have a default setup for heading 1, whatever your PC is using. So if we want to make sure that, let's say, heading 1 is a particular color or a particular size or aligned to the left or the center or the right, then we need to either manually modify each heading one by one, or we can say everything which is H1 in this page will look like this, everything which is H2 will look like this, and so on and so forth. So let's do that. I'm going to work again directly from this part here, from the style sheet, which is linked to my HTML code, because it's just so much easier to see the changes while I'm working on them. So the next step is I'm going to come over here to my selectors, and I'm going to click on the plus sign, and I'm going to choose H1. H. Here we can see all the H tags. Okay, so I'm going to choose H1 to modify the H1 tag. Okay, so what do I want to modify? Well, for this example, I want to show you a sample of a question so we can see what a question would look like. The color of H1 should be the components of the hexadecimal color this. Now I'm just going to go over this very, very quickly. Essentially, a hexadecimal color works with three main components: a red component, a green component, let's just change that over to green, and a blue component. And they are always like, so this is where the term RGB comes from. This is RGB color. Now, essentially what happens, by each pixel on your screen is actually made up of a red. Actually, let's just change this one over to red so I don't have to keep going backwards and forwards. So it's actually made up of a red, a green, and a blue pixel. And the combination of these three little LEDs make up all the colors that we can actually see on our monitor. So by changing the intensity of each color component of the red, the green, and the blue, we can get all the different colors for one pixel. So when we want to choose a color, we can think of these color codes here like little volume dials. Volume on your radio, so you've got volume 0 to 10. 10 is the loudest, 0 is no sound. But if we think of that as intensity of light, 0 is zero light, and maximum is the full brightness of that colored light. So we can go from, and as I said, we're not going to go into too deep about hexadecimal. The volume levels you got is from 0, 0 to FF. This is the lowest, and this is the highest. And you've got that for each color. So if I was to put my color level to this, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, FF, that means the red component of that LED is at minimum. There's no red light. The green component is at 0. That means there's no green light. The blue component is at maximum. So what I'm getting effectively is pure blue color. So in the same way, if I wanted to have pure red color, my code will be like this: FF 0, 0, 0, 0. That is a maximum of red light, 0 green light, 0 blue light. And the same thing if I want maximum green or just pure green, I would have 0, 0, FF, and 0, 0. And essentially what's going to happen is if you start adding a little bit of red with the green, a little bit of blue, you're going to start getting all these different colors. Now, the number system for hexadecimal works like this. It goes from 0 to 9. That's your normal number system. But after 9, instead of 10, you get A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, so from 0 to F, you've got 16 numbers. From 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then you've got A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, so these are the different levels. So any of these singular values can be between 0 and F. All right, so here it says, and this is where they get a little bit tricky. They say blue is 0, red is 0, green is 50. But the color code for RGB must be RGB. First the red, then the green, then the blue. So the code for this is going to be red is 0, so that's going to be for the red component 0, 0. Green is 50, and blue is 0, so that will be 0, 0. Okay, so that's the hexadecimal number for that. Let's now go look at the font. Now it says here Palatino, but if not available, you're going to have Times New Roman, and if that's not available, then it's going to use Times. And if none of these are available, then the default serif font. Well, what does this mean? Unlike Microsoft Word, when you create a Word document and you put all your fancy font and you modify your font, bold, italic, and this, that, that, those fonts, if you're using, let's say, Comic Sans Serif, you're using Times New Roman, you're using Courier, you're using Gothic writing, those fonts are saved in the document, in that Word document that you save, those fonts are saved within that package. That's why Microsoft Word files are quite large. With a HTML file though, those fonts are not saved. When you go and browse the internet and you're viewing a web page, sometimes on some devices that web page looks different. The reason why is the fonts are not downloaded with the web page. So where are these fonts? Well, they're on your device. They're on your computer. They're saved on your device. And what it does, it says, if this device, if the computer that you're using or the device you're using has got the font, in this case, Palatino, then use that font for this H1 tag. If it doesn't have Palatino, that font Palatino, so let me just get rid of all these. If it doesn't have the font Palatino, then check if that system that's being used to view this website has got the font Times New Roman. And if it does, well, it will use that. If it doesn't, then it's going to check and see, well, does it have the font Times? If it does, it will use that. And if it doesn't, well, it says, okay, well, look, whatever serif font is being used, the default serif font for that device, then just use that. So what is a serif font and a sans serif font? Well, you should know this from the Word component. Serifs are these little ticks. So if I just go back to my screen here, you can see here the word uploading. It's got these little ticks at the top of the U, and the P, it's got these little ticks here and down here, and the T here, it's got these little ticks at the end. These are known as serifs. So serif fonts have got these little ticks. A sans serif font, basically sans stands for without. Sorry if I pronounce this wrong. I don't know French. But it's that I have learned that it actually means without. It means without serifs or without ticks. So it would use any default serif font, and that would be any default font with ticks. So how do we do this in CSS? Well, here we go. From H1, I'm going to click here, and I'm now going to go over here to my styles, and I'm going to click on text. Now, I'm going to choose a font family. If I click on this now, I can choose any one of these font family groups. Now, by no means is it going to have the exact group it's asking me for. But what I can do is choose one or any one of these, or something that has got, you know, at least the ending, the serif or the sans serif. So if we look down here, we can see that it wants to use any one. So if you can't find any of them, it wants to use just the default serif font. So I'm going to choose one that's going to give me that. So here we go. So if I look here in my font family, I'm going to choose, let's say I can choose this one here because it ends in serif. I can choose this one because it ends in serif. It's also got time. So I'm just going to choose this second one here. Again, it makes no difference. Okay, I'm just going to expand this so you can actually see this a bit easier. And I'm going to bring this into my whiteboard. So let's look at this line of code here. It's saying now that H1 is essentially font family. It's saying the first font it's going to look for is going to be Cambria. I know that because that's the first one, which is here. And that's where the comma is. Okay, so that's going to be my first font it's going to look for. Then it's going to, if this one doesn't exist, it's going to look for Hoffler text. So this part here is going to be my second font. And so on and so forth. Liberation serif is going to be the third font it looks. If you can't find that, it's going to look for Times. That's the fourth. Here's the next comma, Times New Roman. And if you can't find any of these, it's going to use serif. So what can I do about this? Well, I can simply delete them and just put the ones I want and leave them in the order I want. But before I do that, I want you to notice this. That some of these have got speech marks, like this one here, Hoffler text has got speech marks. The reason why is because it has a space between the word Hoffler and text. The same with liberation serif. So that's why you've got these speech marks. You put them so that it knows that that is the name. It's two words for the name of the font. If the name of the font is one word and there's no spaces, then it doesn't need the speech marks. As you can see, we've got that here with Cambria, we've got that with Times. and with serif. Okay, so if I'm going to make any other font, I can make my own font. If it's 2 words, I need to put it in speech marks or more than 2 words. So now let's go back and create the font the way we want it. So before we do that, let's have a look and see what it is we want. We want it to have Palatino first, Times New Roman second. So I'm going to get rid of all of this. I don't need any of this. And it wants Times New Roman second. So I'm just going to leave that there. And I'm going to write here Palatino. I don't need speech marks because it's one word. Then it says Palatino first, Times New Roman second, whatever it is, it's second. Then it said if that's not available, to have the font Times. So I'm just going to write the word Times and put a comma. That's my next font. And if that doesn't exist, the default serif font. There you go. So it's going to be looking for Palatino. Then if not, that's not their Times New Roman. If that's not their Times, if that's not their serif. So that's the font order it's going to be looking for. Okay, so going back to this question paper, we're now going to have a look and see what it wants. So the next part is it needs to be 36 points high, and we can see that here. Okay, so 36 point high, we're going to go back, and I'm going to choose, so by clicking on my H1, going over to my properties on the text layout here, I'm going to go to font size. I'm going to choose pixels because it says pixels. Now be careful because it may ask for pixels, it may ask for points. Normally points or PT is for text. In this case, they've decided to use pixels. Pixels are usually for pictures. So I'm going to use pixels, there it is there, and I'm just going to type 36. And press enter. And we can see that now in our, and you can see my web page is changing as we go along. Okay, that's really cool. All right, let's just bring that in a little bit there. Now, the next one, font H2, it wants it to be, we can see that there, 16 pixels high, left aligned. Okay, now it doesn't say anything about the style or anything, so I don't have to put a font family as long as it's 16 pixels high and left aligned. So I'm going to go back. And from here, I'm going to go to selectors, add another one, H2, press enter. And now I'm going to go over here, click on my text. So I want 16 pixels high, so font size, pixels, 16. I can type that in, press enter. And you can see these things here are changing while I'm going along. Okay. The next one is going to be left aligned. So I'm going to choose my alignment here. Text align is going to be left. And I'm also going to go back to H1 and I'm going to make that center aligned just for the sake of it. It probably was the case in the question paper. So I just want to modify that as well. So I'm going to click on the H1. You can see it's now selected the H1 tag because I'm actually got my cursor in there. And I'm just going to go to my font align, text align, and put that centered. We can see that's now centered. Heading 3 says 16 pixels high, alignment center. So I'm going to add the next one, H3. Press enter. And H3 it says 16 pixels high, aligned to the center. So again, font size. We're going to use pixels, 16. And align to the center for this one. Okay, now, and that's basically it for font. Let's just add some color as well. So if I go to H1, and I'm just going to go to the text, and I'm going to choose a color here, and I'm just going to make that, let's say, a reddish color there, and press enter. So that also, you can see there you go, that text has now changed. Okay, so that's text. Heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, you can modify the text, you can modify the color, the alignment, and all of that. The next thing that we want to look at is this list. Now, the list, we're going to be modifying the li tag. So if I go to my source code, we can see, if I select that again, each item, so each number is contained or is identified using the li. So every time it sees this li tag here, that's when it adds another number. So if I was to come to this source code, just make that a bit smaller. Go to the bottom, press enter, and then add another li tag manually and put some text in there. You can see it should, there you go, when I click on it, it's added 6. So that li tag is what decides when it's going to put a new number or a new bullet point. So I'm just going to delete that. Don't need it. So essentially, if I want to change the style of that bullet point or that number, then understandably, it's going to be the li tag that's going to modify it. So let's go back to our style sheet. We're now going to click down here and I'm going to put selector, a new one. I'm going to choose the li selector, press enter, enter again. And now I'm going to go to text because it's part of the text module or the text properties. And we should look down here. There we go. We've got this list style type. And then we've got list style image, list style position. So let's look at the position first. Here we've got inside, here we've got outside. What I've actually got here by default is outside. You can see the numbers are outside. If I go inside, there we go. Can you see the numbers are part of the paragraph alignment? So I'm just going to leave that outside. So if it does say inside or outside, you can modify that tag. And there it is there, list style position outside. The next one I want to have a look at is the list style type. And if I click on that, I can choose different style types. So if I want Roman numerals, then I can do lower Roman. And there you go. It's done that. If I wanted it to be, for example, bullets, well, if I wanted bullet points, I wouldn't be using an ordered list, I'd be using an unordered list. But still, if I was to change this to, let's say, square bullet points, we should have here square. There it is down here. You can see it makes it into square bullet points, irrespective if in the source code it says it's an ordered list. We can see that there. We actually use numbers initially. It doesn't matter because the li tag is saying it's going to use this symbol here. And this is why I said we're going to look at the bullets and numbering, ordered and unordered list at another point in time. But that's basically the li tag. Okay, I think we're about done. All I need to do now, as I said, you can close this. You don't need to use this. Okay, if I want to save the changes, yes. And that saved the changes on this one here, because Dreamweaver actually pulls in all the resources or all the files that's been used for this web page. Now, if you're asked to add your name at the bottom as a comment or at the top as a comment, well, if you start any blank CSS, let's say you've deleted this, you don't have this line here, this comment at the top, you can either just type it in manually at the bottom, so /*. And actually, I wanted to show you what happens if you put this at the top. My students have done this before. They put the /*, they've written their name, and they haven't closed that /* or the */. And you can see all of my text now here. If I do a save, okay, all of this is now text. It's not commands. Okay, so you need to close this */, so it knows only this part here is a comment. Now, if you can't remember that /*, you could always just do this: File, New, CSS, and every brand new CSS in Dreamweaver will start off with a CSS document comment. And that will remind you that you just go to, you can just copy paste this if you want, or just remember that it's a /*, and then go back and add it where you want. So usually at the bottom, I'm going to copy paste that there, and you will put your details. So your center number, our center number is CY127, and your candidate number, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's it. Okay, I hope this was helpful. And don't forget, this is only the start. I'm going to have another tutorial on style sheets to look at tables in particular, because tables are a chapter on their own, understanding tables and the tags that are used to create tables. So make sure you watch that video as well, so you have an overall knowledge on style sheets. Take care. See you in the next video.